It's a pleasure to be back here at the Carmel Valley Rotary Club podium again, but this time I'm telling you about a documentary that I had the pleasure of making for a nonprofit that is living its mission to save this endangered species of the California condor. There's only so many of them left, and instead of hiring a production company to translate what they do into some kind of movie, they took it upon themselves to become a production company and make a film with me. And that's what I do at House of 8 Media. I turn my clients into directors. So when Kelly Sorensen approached me saying, hey, he wants to follow these birds, and there's so many fans out there that love these birds because they're all identified, they all have numbers and names, that perhaps there's a story for us to tell that could help spread the word of their conservation efforts. And the Ventana Wildlife Society has been saving the condors for, I think, since the 80s. I'm just going to say since the 80s, since I don't know the exact number, but a long time. And Kelly Sorensen has been there since the beginning, and he was my partner on this project. So this presentation is about why it was made, you know, their mission, and also I'm going to tell you a lot. We're going to get really geeky here, and I'm going to tell you how we wrote it, how we produced it, how we edited it, and the whole second part is how we distributed it, because that was in some ways the hardest part. So I've prepared some slides for you. This is about 20 minutes long, and then we'll have about 5 to 10 minutes for a Q&A at the end. So this is a 1-hour documentary whose intention was to be distributed on PBS. And fortunately, we were able to live up to that goal, and we were able to get our national distribution on PBS. And this is streaming on PBS Passport if you're a subscriber to that. But you can also search Condor Canyon PBS, and you can find it available free online. And you can beam it to your television or watch it on one of your devices or your computer. But it's shown over 350 times in 35 states and Puerto Rico so far. And this is all about our Big Sur flock of condors. People are really loving this film, and one of our favorite quotes is by Phyllis, who emailed. She comes to the Condor Chats once a month that Ventana Wildlife Society hosts and talk all about the trials and tribulations month by month. The biologists talk to their audience, and hundreds of people show up on Zoom and get their updates about the birds. Phyllis says, "The photography, music, and script is so professionally produced. Bravo." Thank you, Phyllis. People are really loving this movie because they're falling in love by the end with the outcome. They really want to know what happens, and that was the goal. When we set out to make this movie, we did not know if our hero was going to survive. We didn't know if the patriarch was going to stay the patriarch, and we didn't know if the chick that was in the shell would hatch or not, because the mother had never hatched egg in 26 years. Her eggs, and the condors have one egg every other year, her eggs always failed. They always broke because of eggshell thinning, which is from poisonous remnant DDT that's still in the ecosystem from the 70s, and it's still in the marine mammal life that this particular condor has a specialty that she loves, and so her eggs would break. So we didn't know if it was going to hatch or not, but we knew we had some story. So here's how we wrote it. It starts with a mission. So Kelly Sorensen said, hey, we've got this mission. Let's make a 1-hour documentary. He had some funding from the Doris Day and Terry Melcher Foundation, and then other funding from different grants and donors. This film, by the way, has since been shown privately with donor-advised meetings over dinner and private screenings, and they have used this to help keep their organization afloat, because recently they have lost 40% of their funding because their national federal funding was reneged from them last year. And they've used this film to help keep the word going about their efforts in saving this keystone species. So we had a rough pre-production outline, production dates, and post-production schedule. This more or less was what we ended up with, but post-production did take a bit longer than we thought, especially the distribution phase, which I'll get into later that I mentioned. It starts with putting together kind of the above-the-line credits. Who's going to shoot it, write it, maybe the voiceover, maybe we know who that is or not, story, music, where's it all going to come from, what's the tone, and we create this stylized lookbook where we put some pictures up on a panel, and then this document, which also contains an overview of the 6-act structure based on like which birds we think we're going to be highlighting, which ones we can get to their nests. They do know which ones we can get to their nests, and so how are we going to highlight them, the leaders and the people that are our stars. We call them our stars, our 3 nesting pairs. We put together a rough outline, and also we wanted to tell the stories of the previous fires that the birds have, that took some of the birds' lives and created a lot of problems for the whole flock and the region. And in general, we want to tell that story. So we took this lookbook and we used that to hire our voiceover artist and onboard different crew members. Our original music score, some of the tracks were by an original composer, and we'll get into that when we talk about post-production. So first step was writing this, and what we had to do was really dissect our 6-act structure and create these themes of like what story arcs we wanted to hit for each act. How are we going to get the audience sucked in the beginning? So we did these as cards, and we moved them around, and this is kind of how they gelled in place. And this is our cast of characters. We have Traveler, our hero, the one who has the eggshell thinning problem, who embodies that. Of course, she's not the only one with that issue. Shadow, the patriarch of the flock, who's her mate. And Chol, their chick that did survive, that did hatch and fledge the nest. And then the flock, all of the others. So we wrote in acts, we wrote in our story, but we had to come up with our narration. So we wanted to take a traditional wildlife approach this time. We had made a previous series about condors, but it was more of a journalistic approach, where there's a journalist on camera interviewing biologists in the field, talking about the issues and the challenges for condors. But we wanted to really focus just on the birds, no humans in the film. There's only 1 or 2 humans, biologists in the film when they find Traveler in the wild, and we'll get to that later. And we wanted to have a great score and be like really compelling traditional wildlife movie. So to come up with the actual, to flesh out like the narration, we have to know what's happening on screen so that we're narrating that. Well, in order to come up with what's happening on screen, we had to compile string outs. So string outs is what, I guess that's my term, but it's a compilation of footage on a theme in a timeline. So as you can't see this on the screen right now, but there's like 30 timelines of a string out. And for example, it says like string out Shadow, string out Amigo challenging Shadow, string out aerial competition, string out eating or mating, or all these different string outs, and it's just a bunch of footage. And then we deliver that to the writer and was like, this is what we have. And then from there, he was able to write the narration. The whole message is coached by our story writer, the executive director of Ventana Wildlife Society, Kelly Sorensen. So this is just an example of a string out. It's just footage that is on a theme. So this is like highlighting Traveler 171 in a tree. So that's one clip. Here's another clip. Those are like interesting moments. Okay, this is Traveler jumping from one rung of the tree to another, for example. So let's talk about the production, because the story and the production was actually the same phase. We're actually shooting in the field, bringing my editor the footage, and then giving her footage notes videos on what happened in the field. We were able to get these birds. We were there this much time, things like that, and then she was able to create that. So I'm going to talk about the crew here. So I was the director of photography. That means I directed the video footage acquisition, but I didn't do all of it. Meredith Evans was their in-house photographer, and so we actually got them a camera, which was the same camera as mine. I taught her how to use it, and then she went out into the field with the biologists on a weekly basis. And then I was brought in more for milestone moments, such as capturing the birds and tagging them, or going out to different locations and filming the nests. So I was go to those moments, but she was there day by day, and she would get all of the secondary unit footage, like all the coastal footage, or flowers and birds and like other wildlife. She was able to get some of that. Here's an example. I'm just narrating. I'm saying like.
Yeah, maybe Marin's. Yeah, she's on the slope.
171's looking at us right there. There's our star of our show. So Meredith's on the 400 millimeter right now, and we're at the sanctuary. Picture sanctuary. Who's that? Number 3. I don't think I know you. You look intense. And they're all hanging out on the roof here because the leaders of this flock are inside the pen. 171's mate is in there. Shadow. We've got Redwood Queen in there. And they're all checking us out right now. And we're here to film for a movie. All right, it was hot out there at the release site. That's the Condor Big Sur release site. But that wasn't the only location. There was the Redwood Nest, where we had the one pair's nest, and then there was just California Coast General, where we flew the drone with permission over land owned by Ventana Wildlife Society, and then the Cliff Nest. Now, the Cliff Nest was a 3-mile hike from where we parked, kind of uphill, where we could get within a 600 millimeter range with the camera, able to get a close-up of the nest on the cliffside. It was hard to get to, and then we didn't know when the condors would arrive. So this is us waiting in the heat.
Damn it.
What are you doing, Joe? Can you call the condors, please?
I am picking up the Earth's energy right now, tuning into my feng shui. Oh, come in, Condor. No, nothing, guys. Coming. Nada.
2 strikes, man.
Yeah.
We waited 2.5 hours, and then they came in and they fed the chick in the nest 1 time every other day. So we're filming this chick in the nest, and it's just motionless, like just bored, just completely frozen. Eventually, sometimes it would just kind of move its head. Just wait there for its parents to arrive. And then when its parents arrive, it's just like, oh my God, please feed me. So it was very exciting once it finally happened. And we would film it from the sky with the drone. The drone had a telephoto lens on it, so we didn't get too close. And then our camera on the tripod would get right there, so get it from 2 angles. That feeding moment, which became a great hero moment in the film. All right, in the field, this is an example of the millimeters we used. We had a 345 to 920 millimeter lens, big giant lens on a camera that shot in 6K resolution. We had telemetry data from their tags to find out like where they were, and that helped inform kind of if they were in the neighborhood, things like that. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you my favorite story from the production, where a condor gave me a gift, and I brought the gift here for you. All right, you're not allowed to take a condor feather, but if a condor gives it to you, it's okay. At least that's what they told me, and why I got to keep the condor feather. All right, so I break off from the group at the sanctuary release site, and I'm walking with my camera, and I've noticed this bird in the tree, and I'm kind of walking for it. It's way high up in the tree, and then I see it reach into its tail feathers, and yoink out a tail feather, and then it's looking right at me. It sees me coming down, and then it spits it out, and it gets caught in the tree. And at that point, I think, oh, I better be filming. So that's when I started rolling. It was caught in the tree, and I was filming it, and then, as you can see, it just dislodged, and now it's floating down to me right behind the bush, and I went up and I got it. And I'm like, wow, thank you so much. And now I have this on my shrine at home to this movie, and it's something I can remember it by, so thank you. Let's talk about post-production. This was quite a beast in post-production because we had all of this footage and the story that we didn't quite know how it worked, and so this is the process of editing. So we took our string outs, then once we had our story, then we can create a rough assembly of each act 1 through 6. And we kind of know what's happening, but it's kind of very long. Each act is 25 minutes long, but we want a 1-hour film, so how do we condense it down? And that's where we start chiseling it down and directing it. And so once we had the temporary voiceover narration by our editor kind of in place, and all of the takes that we wanted, and we generally knew kind of the timing, and we started layering in music with the themes and the styles that we wanted to go for, it became very clear that the film really needed my touch in the editing room. And so my editor said, Mike, it's time for you to direct this movie. And that was a come to Jesus moment for me, going, okay, I guess I can't rely on this edit to come together without me. I have to do the work. So Brittany and I, my wife, Brittany and I, we went down to Tree Bones, our favorite place, and we did a working retreat. I brought my whole editing rig, and I logged every session, and I layered in the professional narration from Kathy Cavadari, and also added music. And I would layer it in, layer the musics in transition, and I edited, basically did like the next layer of editing and adding all the music and the narration and also some of the original score. And all the stuff came together with 3 days at Tree Bones. And then when I came back, we had a version ready to go through the approval process with Kelly Sorensen. We had a few tracks that were originally composed by John Weinglass, who's one of our resident composers here for the Monterey Symphony. And he also allowed us to use some music from one of his symphonies. So we also had a professional mixer and a Foley artist who created music sound bites for the film in his studio. So this is an example of how he created some of the Foley sounds, so the flapping of the bird wings with an umbrella. Isn't that fun? He's like, okay, there's 6 wing beats, here we go. 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. So he did that throughout the film for the bushes rattling and everything like that, because we don't have microphones on the birds. We have to recreate all that. Okay, so the road to distribution here, our final section of my talk. Eventually we did succeed, but boy was it difficult. We had to get the film ready for what's called NEDA. NEDA is this distributor. So PBS actually like hosts the film, and they're the network, but NEDA is the ones that like packages it and gets it ready. In order to get it to NEDA, we had to work with a media service agency that could package it and go through QC, quality control, for broadcast. In order to do that, we had to meet the time constraints and match the PBS's producer's handbook. We had to add to the film because it had to be 56 minutes and 46 seconds long, not a frame under or over. So we had to add things called a funding pod and an offer, and then we came up with other things to kind of add it because our film wasn't quite long enough. We needed to like add 4 minutes to the movie. And we didn't want to go through color correction again, so we kind of had to add in sections of the movie. So we added our funding pods. Those are our acknowledgments to the people that funded the movie at the top and at the head and the tail of the program, and also a land acknowledgement for the Esalen people, and our offer to purchase the DVD that's playing right there in the program at the very end, and the statistic. And this is from the end of filming in December 2023. 100 birds in our California flock, and only that many left in the world. So Ventana Wildlife Society is directing House of 8 Media. House of 8 Media is packaging the film and delivering it to Hessinger Media Services, and then they deliver it once it passes quality control to NEDA, and then NEDA gives it to PBS to program for all of the member stations that want it. In order to be distributed by PBS, we needed a station to be our champion, and they're the ones that pitched it to all of the other member stations, and that was the Detroit PBS station. And then Ventana Wildlife Society had to pay Detroit PBS to market out to the world. So we don't get paid, or VWS doesn't get paid for the national distribution. They actually had to pay $14,000 to get the film marketed to all the stations. And then through newsletters and whatever they do, they say, this film is available. You can program it on your station. And then that's how it got to 350 screenings since last June. Henninger Media Services, to pass quality control, we had to give them the film, and then they give us feedback on what needs to change. We delivered it, and then we're waiting. We didn't get an acknowledgement, and I'm like, what? This girl, Sarah, has dropped the ball. She must be an intern. Like, what's going on? And we're waiting around, and then we received over 70 notes. And this was a film we thought was picture ready. I mean, Kelly's watching it, I'm watching it, the editor's watching it, and we're like, it's perfect. And we received 70 notes. And it was all so minuscule. I mean, it's about like, an extra half of a character space before the period on those one lower thirds. Or there's 1 pixel length of black up on the top of the frame. That has to shift up a little bit. Or the timing, the crossfade, you can actually still see it for 2 frames right here. You should check that out and approve that. Or the quality of this footage is old. You should, or is that approved or not? The stuff that we up-res to make it, 4K. And it was insane. We actually did 7 major export versions, and each version is 62 gigabytes that we had to deliver. So it would take all night to upload, then they would download it, they would go through the process and give us more notes. And we had to do that every night. I was just giving them another version. So I was just in the trenches, just figuring this technical stuff out and making it work. All right, we eventually gave them something that they accepted, and I had to learn so much about the export settings I never knew me as a cameraman would ever have to figure out, but I learned a lot of new vocabulary. So it was a quite unexpected technical process, but it was a quite necessary process to go through this. And now I can do it again. I learned a lot. And I definitely would go again. So now it's airing on PBS all over the place. And if you look up PBS Condor Canyon, you can see it too. Or you can go to my website and you can see a link there. That's houseof8media.com. That's it. Go ahead.
Are you going to do it again?
Yes. I am going to do it again, and I want to tell you about my next documentary. When the city of Carmel did not receive me the way that I wanted to be received, when I started a nonprofit and wanted to do this fun thing for the community, for Flanders Mansion, I let that go and I allowed something else to plant a seed in me. And I started focusing more on my business and what I really want to do. So I started being open to opportunities beyond my community. And I received a newsletter of somebody I knew, I'd known for a long time, and he was looking for a videographer to document this movement. I said, oh, maybe it's me. We met a few times, and I'm privileged to be at the beginning of a documentary on the ground floor for something that has national appeal. It's called the National Pilgrimage. It's going to be this summer for 6 weeks. It is a road trip across the country. And if we're lucky enough to raise the funds after our capital campaign, which will begin in 2 weeks, I will be taking my family on a trip across the country following these pilgrims, learning about the country. We're going to hit all of these historic sites. And it's going to end with the Mothers Constitutional Convention. So there's a movement of mothers, indigenous cultures, and other people who have ambition to write a new framework for our country's constitution. Did you know that we're the only democracy that has not rewritten our constitution? And it's the oldest democracy on the planet. And so we're not alone. There's other movements involved, but we're the ones who want to do it on the 250th birthday of our country. And so it's going to be in July, and that's where the trip ends. We're going to start in Philadelphia and end in Philadelphia. And we're going to go 5,800 miles, 6 weeks, 20 historical sites. And we're going to gather footage to frame up what the mothers create at the convention. And I'm going to be doing it with my family in an RV. Brittany and I, as you know, have been making movies together for a while. I was here presenting about the Tour House documentary for Robinson and Una Jeffers Tour House. So she's going to be the writer, and I'm going to be the director-shooter, and my kids are going to be my assistants. And we'll be part of the story, but not the story itself. We're going to be following a diverse coalition of people interested who want to do something. This film is going to document kind of the pain across our nation of what's not working. It's ambitious, but we're going to take the perspective of mothers and what they're holding and what's not working for them. And they're going to end at the convention with a debate on the constructs of how to work. And we're working with really powerful people to do this, and I get to be the lens for it all. Our goal, these are our goals, our minimum and our maximum there, and what we can do with those totals. we're trying to raise at least $50,000 to make the trip work. I don't know how many of you are on Instagram, but if you are, I'm going to be posting stories to my Instagram stories, and I'd love for you to follow along my family's journey across the country if this happens. I'll know probably by the end of April if it's going to happen or not for me and them. It could be just, if they don't raise enough money, they're just going to go without the documentary crew, and if they do raise enough, then we'll get to go. My kids will have this wonderful educational experience. They're ages 13, 11, and 7. And the dog, the family dog. That's it. Thank you so much.